CSS class. Basically, this is the second class now, CSS. So basically, like I said, we are going to dive straight into code, and I want us to just start immediately. So I've been having issues recording, I mentioned in the last class, and for some reason these classes are coming a little bit very late, but let's just go into it. Go to your folder where you have your hello world folder, and create a new folder inside of it and call it CSS. Basically that's it. Then you can just minimize or close it there. So with that, you go into your code editor. Mine is already opened. Just go into your code editor. This was from our last project. Basically this was from the HTML project that we did, so I just left it open. I didn't change a thing about it. So I'll just be using this with the style. I'll just do a little bit of editing to show some basics about HTML. So now let's go back into the code. So I would remove this HR via Beth-el's profile, below Beth-el's profile, that is this horizontal row. I'll remove it. We'll be putting it back with CSS. Then I'll remove all horizontal rows. I'll be putting them back with CSS, and let's just get started. So now, if you notice on your hello world folder here, the CSS folder you created inside has been created. So we have CSS folder, we have the image folder, and we have the index. So like I was telling you, there are two ways of writing your CSS. We said there is the internal method and the external method, and the internal method could be either inline CSS or basically the internal method itself. So internal method, what you just get to see is some people would, in the header here, this head, in the head document, just create something like this and write, open a style tag, and in here they would write style. So let's see how this works. Let's say, like I told you, there are selectors, so we can select this H1 basically and do anything we want to do with the H1, and I'm going to just select it, H1, then this, then we'll put our style inside. Basically that is just how it works. There is no magic to it. We talked about selectors, and we could just select the H1 and we'll do any style we want. Let's say, since I'm removing the header, the horizontal row, I've removed it now. So let me show you how it looks. I've saved. Let me take you to the browser. It has been removed. So how do we put this back with CSS? But before doing that, I need to show you an image that I got from somewhere. CSS has different measuring rules basically, and it is important to take note of it. There's what is called margin, or basically I treat all CSS elements, especially block elements, like a box. So this is your content area. Let's imagine this is what's inside of our HR, that's a width. Then around it is what we call the padding. We'll be seeing all this in real code soon. Then after the outer layer is what is called the border. Then we have the margin. The margin is basically invisible in the browser, but there's a margin that is there in your browser. There's a padding, and there's also the content area. So basically the border, like I said, is like a solid will I say solid? It could be dotted as well, like a line around the border. I don't know how to just like a border between a community and a community, that kind of stuff. There's a border between one element and another element. Then outside of it, there's a margin that exists also, and within the elements or within the border of that element, there is also padding. So let's see this in real code. Let's jump into our browser. So now this h1 element that has Beth-el's profile, it has a border, it has margin around it. Let's see it in this. Okay, so it has a border. You might not necessarily see it, but there's a border. There's though it is not drawn, but we'll draw the border just now and you see, and it has a margin. Margins are not visible, and it equally has padding inside. So now in our code, let's just describe those things directly. We can now decide to say let's add let's add a margin to it and see what happens. And margin, you have margin top, which you can put at, let's say, 10 pixel. The same way, margin bottom, if you notice, we selected the h1 element. Let's put 10 pixel again. We equally have margin left and right. You can guess it like that. Then margin right. Pixel. Now let's just save, Ctrl S, and go back into go and see what happens in our browser and see if there's any noticeable change. Refresh. If you notice, it's a little bit, there's a lot more difference coming between the elements. It's more, it has a 10 margin, 10 around everything. But there's a shortcut of doing this same exact thing. So since we want, or let's even make it more noticeable. Let's put a margin of 40. I want you to see it very well so that you understand the margin stuff I'm talking about. Let's put a margin of 40 so that you'll be able to see it very well. Ctrl save. Then go to you can see it now very obviously. 40 40 40 left, right, like that, and 40 up. And what's happening here that it seems like here is greater in some way, it's because like I said in our HTML class, if you notice, our HTML by default, each HTML element by default has a style inbuilt, like by HTML itself. So sometimes what you can do, you could reset everything to have 0 style from the onset. So what you would just do is you could say from the beginning you just put an asterisk, then this, it means for all elements, then you can just say margin zero, padding 0, and basically doing this, you are removing all the default style so that your own styles will be the only one that would be visible in the HTML document. So when you save and go, you have removed all the default styles from them. If you notice, everything now looks squished together or close together. So you will now be the one to add styles to every element. So now back to our code. Like I was saying initially, this margin whole thing, there's also a shortcut to writing this like we did. So instead of writing margin top, margin bottom, margin, since all of them are going to have the same value and in the same unit, you could as well just remove all this, then do it like I did earlier. You just say margin, rather than putting top bottom, it's margin 40 pixels. Means this automatically means you're saying all margin, top, bottom, left, right, all carries the same amount of pixel, 40, and nothing would change in our code, in our display. If we refresh, everything is still the way it is, basically. So how do we now put further style? Like another thing again, let me just quickly mention before we forget. If just, you can equally write it shorthand in such a way. If you notice it, like just, you can see, like if you want different values for top, bottom, left and right, there's also a way to do it. You just need to look at it like a clockwise something. So you can say margin top 40 pixel, margin left, right, margin left, let's say we put 5 pixel, margin left, right, bottom, margin left, then next is bottom, right? We can now put bottom, let's put 10 pixel, then right, we can now put let's put right for 20 pixel. So you can look at it like this. Instead of writing margin top, margin right, you can also, if you can write it the same way. Margin top 40, margin left, that is a clockwise direction, margin left, margin bottom, then margin right, like that. So now when you look at it, when you go back to your code, you see the styles have been applied. See, the top is 40, like that, left, bottom and right. That's how it works. So now so that's the short. And another way we could apply some styles to our h1 tag, we could equally put color. Color basically applies to the text color. So we could say color, let's put blue color. I think something that will be visible. So let's go back to our code and to our browser and see it's now blue, basically. So that's why I said CSS has the ability for you to do so many wonderful things. So like I was saying, we removed our HR in the document, so it's no longer here. We can put it back. This is how we can do it. Remember I told you something, that it has borders. or every element you can actually add a border to it. So now we can use that border principle, but the same thing applies with the the margin, but only that border you have to put either solid or dotted. So let's just go border style, border style. You have to put the border style property. Then it could be dash, dotted, like my CSS guide is showing me. It could be dashed, it could be dotted, it could be anything. It could be solid, but we are going to use solid, but it could be dash, dotted, it could be any style. You could just experiment with these styles, but I'm using solid. And next again, you have to put a border color. Border dash color. You have to put a border color. It's very important. And in this case, let me just put black. And let's see what happens. I just want us to experiment this. You see, it has a border all round, and the border is blue. It's supposed to be black. What color did we choose for the border? We chose black, but it's carrying blue, I guess, because the color of the text color is blue, but I want it to be black. Okay, my bad. I'm supposed to put a semicolon, and I put a full column, so this style is not reflecting. So now let's select, save, and go back to our and now we see it has a black border around it. So there's also a short way of writing this border that we talked about. So we could just say, instead of writing border black, we'll just write border and put solid and put we can put size. So let's say we want our border, the thickness to be 10 pixel, not pixels. Then we want it to be black. So let's remove this and see what happens. You can see now it's 10 pixel and it's black. But what if we just want the border to be in one side of our document? We don't want it round. We could say border dash bottom 10 pixels and all this. So now let's see what happens. It only applies to the bottom. We could say border left, border right, border, and the same style we are applying would apply to that same. But I don't want this, it's too thick. So let's make it an even, let's say 4 pixels, and see if it's going to be thin. Yeah, and if you notice, we are bringing back our HR, and we can make it even as thin as this, but I think I like something like this. So let's say we want to make this Beth-el come towards the center rather than just be here. We could just target the same H1. We could target the H1 which we are already targeting. Like everything we're doing is to the H1. So we could target this within the H1, and we can say we could even increase, just rather than increase the so if we want to bring our our document, we want to make it to be in the center. It's not in the center, I just did it kind of to create that feeling. But if we want to do this, let me reset the code basically. So this is what we have. This is what we have. If we want to bring it to the center, how do we go about doing that? There's a star we could add, and that's align. We could align, sorry, text align, I think text align, and we could make it center, text align center, yes. And all we just have, let's go and we'll see our item is brought to the center of. So you can see CSS, you can use it to style. So now let's make this thing a lot more beautiful. So we can equally add a background color. So let me say we turn this color to white. We turn it to white, and we can add a property called background color. And let's make it black, and see how, go back to our code, and we see we have a solid background color. But because of this background color, our border is no longer showing because it's the same thing. If you want the border to show, or let me just close this image, let me just close this as well, so that we have everything in one place. So we could as well change the color of the border from black, let's say, to that blue, so that it will show. So let's go, and you see our border is now showing. So basically we can also choose to add height to our document, to each element, depending on how we want to style it. If you notice, we added a margin to the left of this. That's why it's not aligning again with the documents, with the rest of the document that we've already created to start from. So let's say we want everything to start with the same level as this. What if you notice, what we did to it was we added this margin right of 20 pixels. So we could, just like we captured the heading document, we could say the H1, we could go back and say body. That is, you're capturing the whole HTML body, and you just give it a margin right of 20 pixels, and maybe a margin left of 5 pixels. Let's just, or 5 pixels. So by doing this, let's go and see our code. Okay, for some reason it's not adjusting, but it's supposed to. Let me see what's going wrong. So what's happening? It's not giving us what we want. Okay, let's try giving it a general margin everywhere. let's just make the margin for top, left, right, and see what happens. Okay, yes, it worked. It gave it some margin, but we are having a difference here. And since the margin affects both the H1, so we could just remove the right margin for the H1, the margin right, and probably left as well, and just leave the rest to, so that it just margin right. Let's just remove this, since the H1 is also part of the body tag, so there's no point putting the right and the lefts. So let's see. So we only have top and bottom. But if we want to have margin top and bottom only, we have to put something here. So we'll say 0 pixel, or we could just put 0. It still works, and 0. So now let's go to our code and see what we have. Now we have everything in the same order. Okay, that was quite an experiment. Thank God it went on well. So basically, we can actually begin to add different style to our properties. Like, let's say for instance we want this paragraph tag to have some space between, want to add some margin between this and the picture. We don't want it like this, and maybe we want the picture to be a little bit in the middle. What we could equally do is go back to our code, and where is our picture? So our picture is in the ID basic info. Remember, we could as well style. I would like to show something, but let's just continue. We could decide to style this whole section with the ID of basic info, and add a style that will affect everything here, the name, the tables, and everything. All we just need to do is come here. But I hope you're seeing the reason why our document is growing as we're adding style, while internal CSS is bad. I hope you're seeing why internal CSS is bad. As our document is increasing, as we're adding more style and everything, our document is growing larger. I'll show you the alternative, which is the external CSS, in a short while. But let me go show the inline CSS. So this is our internal CSS, the one we know, we talked about earlier. So now there's something called the internal or inline CSS, which I explained in the introductory video. And let's say we want to target this paragraph. This is a basic profile of Mr. Beth-el. Let's say for instance this one. This is a basic profile for Mr. Beth-el. We could actually style it individually as well. Just come into our code. Inside the p tag here that is bringing out that, we will now create a style property, a style attribute, sorry. Then here we can now put let's put a margin that will affect all of it, and put it at 4 pixel, and see what happens. Go. You notice it has raised up, it has gone up by 4 pixel. We can, let's say we can even align text, the same thing we did with this text align. We can decide to jump out there. Let's say text align, and put it at the center, and watch what happens. It goes to the center. You understand? So we can actually style it individually. But look at how cumbersome just the p tag has become, very long. That is one of the reasons why this is the worst way to style an element in CSS. Worst in the sense that it works, not that it doesn't work. It works, but it is making your code to clutter. So this is the inline CSS. We can as well change the color. We can do that. Everything we can do in the internal CSS, we can do here as well. We can as well say color, and put it at aqua. Let's see. And when we go, it is aqua, though aqua doesn't have so much of a contrast with the white background. If you remember what we talked about contrast in our UI class, so let's change it to something that would stand out, something like black or blue. Okay, it's blue, violet. How does this color look? So black and blue, violet. Doesn't really make any difference in my eyes. Well, this is basically what we are talking about. So you can style it like this. But like I said earlier, it is not the best. It is not the best. So remember we talked about IDs and we gave this section basic info. So I'm going to, okay, let me leave this here, and inside of our style we can now pick that specific ID, which is with the pound sign or hash, if you will say. We'll say basic info underscore info. Then we select it, and we can now add style to it. We can say align items center and see if every item in that basic info will go to the center. Okay, somehow it's not going to the center. Why is it not going to the center? Why is it not going to the center? Let's see text align. If all the text will go, text align, not emphasis, text align center. So let's see, everything moves, the picture moves, and I don't know why the table is not moving, but the picture moved to the center. So we could directly target the table and move it to the center. That's another way, but the picture moved. So I think that's one step ahead. So what we need is to get the table to move to the center. So let's say let's try and see if we can target table and move it to the center. Let's see text align center for table and see if the table will obey. Okay, it didn't. Let me see, what am I getting wrong here? So for some reason our table is not moving, and I'm thinking why is the table not? Oh, the table is a block element. Remember I told you people about, we talked in HTML that there are some block level elements and there's some inline elements. Somehow these ones can move because this one is also, this is a block level element, but remember we moved this one with the inline CSS, not with this. But image is an inline level element, so it moved and obeyed text align. But table is a block level element, so it may not move, or like it did not move. So you have to go back into our code, then target the table, I think table, then we could say margin, let's choose margin right and give it a 70% and see. Let's see if this works. Okay, it's kind of squished everything together. Let's, okay, let me see, margin right auto, then margin left auto, margin left auto. Okay, let's see. I hope it works. Wow, so I guess that works. So what we did was, auto means the same amount of space here, the same amount of space, and now we have what we want. So basically it's too close to this image tag, so we could just create some margin between both of them. And since we are on the table, we could say put a margin top. So put a margin top of, let's say, 5 pixels, and this affects the top of it, so there's now that space in between it. And we could also put a margin bottom to create a break, a little bit of space between it and this horizontal row. But that is how we can style our elements so far. So how do we, like this now, let's say we want to make the lines in this table to come out so that it will be a real table, for instance. So we could just decide to go into our table tag. So we can say there's something called, you can target specific elements based on, let me just show you, table, and we're going to be targeting the table table rows, which is TR. And what we'll just do, we can now say border. We can say border, we want it to be solid, we want solid with maybe 2 pixels, and let's give it a black and see what happens. It didn't respond. Okay, are we supposed to target the table header or table data, table row or table data? Okay, we are targeting this. Let's target the table data instead of the table row and see if there will be a difference. TD. Let's see if there will be a difference. Yes, now there is a difference. Basically, we've been able to put border around this, but this is not the kind of border we want. We want to be like a real table. So let's see. Let's make it let's see if you can do style both the table head as well. Let's see what happens. Then let's make it only, instead of round, solid round, let's make it border bottom. Or bottom. Let's see. That's applying to the table head. I said HR. Jeez. Instead of TH. Sorry, my bad. Okay, now we have the head having that same style. So we want the same thing to happen to Or better still, we could actually style the table itself, put a comma. What am I doing? Yes, you could style the table itself, put a comma, the table head and the table data together, and give all of them a border rather than a border bottom. We give all of them, let it apply all around and see what happens. Okay, now we have something like what we want, something like this. Basically, this is what we want. And if you notice, the text align center is making all this to be the same way. So basically, this could work. Or I think there's an HTML, there's a CSS property called table border collapse. I think border. I think there's something like border collapse. I can't remember. I know there's a border collapse form. There's a border collapse fence. Okay, I think it's border collapse. Border collapse. Aha, yes, border collapse. Then you just let it collapse. Then let's delete this first style. Let's see if we have that table that we want. Okay, it's not coming up, so I guess we just have to stick with our previous style until I'm able to see why this border collapse. Okay, border collapse removes the border. Yes, okay, I guess I'm mixing things up here. So this is how our table is coming out. I think there's a way around this. I want it to look like a normal table. Let me see, try out something and see if it will work. Okay, so we can what are we using this for? Okay, this is our table, so let's cut it and bring it down here. Hope our style and everything still works. Okay, still works. Okay, so now on the table we can now add the border collapse. Border collapse. I'm not spelling border correctly. Border dash collapse. And now put collapse and see if it will work. Yes, I guess yes. So now we have our functional border, and we can even target the table data inside, and let's say add some width to each of them. I think so where we have table, then we could just say width or width. Let's just add some margin around it. Let's add some margin. Okay, we already margin to table data alone. We want to add the margin not to table, because we're already adding margin to table here. So we could just add margin to table data and table heading. So we could say th and td. So these are what we are targeting. Then we can now add margin. Let's just add a margin of 5 pixels, and let's see. Okay, there's some changes, but I want more. I think I should target the table, then the table heading and table margin. I think it makes more sense. The margin is not working, so what do we do? So experimenting, okay, I removed this one. We could put the table, we could put a width property here and set it to, let's say, 30% of our page, since it's already aligned to the middle. Then we could come over here and let's see what even happens when we put 30% on the width. Okay, it's kind of squished it a little bit. Let's make it 50% and see. Let's make it 50%. Let's make it 50% and see. So that's basically half of the document. Okay, I think this does what I want it to do for me. There's a lot of space that I really want. I've spent a lot of time trying to style this table, so but basically you can see how we have been able to progress so far. Then and now before we continue, let me quickly, we've already discussed inline styling. That's what we did here, and okay, this we don't need it anymore. And we've discussed styling, inline styling and styling your documents internally, and we can see our document is growing large by the day. So the best way to do this is to link our document from outside using the external style sheet. So, but just before we conclude this class, we'll continue styling our document as we go on. But before we finish up, I want us to use the external styling. And then, like we said, this is how we target an element through ID. We use the pound sign. Let me just quickly do something that, okay, class bio, before I show you the external styling. So we target this basic info, which is this ID here, basic info. So to target this this class, which we just named basic list, or let's say target this class, let's say this basic list class, we can target it by just doing, since it's a class, we'll just do dots, then we'll call the name of the class, which is basic, I think basic list, and like that we can style it. We can put a background color to it, and let's say make the background color brown, and let's see the whole of the items in the basic list has a black background, so a brown background, sorry. And we can even do a lot more. We could create that margin top of let's give it 30 pixel, or 20 pixel should be okay, 20 pixel, and I don't want, since it's brown, let's change the color of the text to white. And my bad, remember in our UI course we're using hyperdecimal class colors, hexadecimal colors, so we can actually use them here. I've just been using white and black and all that. You could say white is FFF, make it, let's just leave it at 3. So basically we can just go back and you see our text is now white. So we could also do that as well. And now back to what I wanted to, okay, this horizontal rule could also remove it from our code. There's no need for it, since we've been able to create a demarcation already. So let's just remove it. So our code is coming up well. So like I was saying, I wanted to show you how this video is already getting to very long. Show you how we can create a external style sheet. So here in our CSS document that we created, so all I'll just do is create a new file inside of it and call it style.css. That's just it. You could give it any name, but I just prefer to call it style.css. So I'll just take all this style, everything inside our style tag. I'll just copy it, Ctrl X, I'll cut it actually, then put it here, then delete this style tag, we don't need it anymore, then save, then save. But if you notice, well, let's go back to our document. Everything has returned back to normal except for this style, because you notice we styled this inline. We styled this one inline. That's why it is the only style that has not gone away. So how do we now link this CSS style so that it will now, our HTML document will now be able to see it? A very simple way to do that is just to go and use the link tag. So we are linking a style sheet. If you notice, I just use the shortcut, but basically you have link is a link tag, it's a self-closing tag. Then you have rel, which is the attribute. You say style sheets, then we'll now put an href, just like a normal a tag link. And here we'll just go dot in this file, go to CSS folder, then you see style.css, then you link it. Now let's save and go back and see if our styles come back. Everything is back. Everything is back. That is just a simple way to link an external style sheet. So now from now on, any style we want to add, we'll just go to our style sheet, add it, and it will reflect in our HTML document. Our document is still normal, nothing has changed, and it's not growing bigger by the number of styles we are adding. And that's the beauty of using an external style sheet. So I'll just end this video here. In the next video, we'll just continue styling. I'll be doing a lot more and adding things to it. So thank you very much.